stare at your wife or if stare at your husband, as the case might be, on a Sunday? Would you rather not work? It's not my quote. It's Mr. Subramanian's quote, chairman of L&T, undated clip. But a few weeks earlier, Mr. Narayan Murthy of Infosys also mentioned thinking about a 70-hour work week. These comments are floating in various sections of social media and have understandably evoked a lot of criticism, memes, snarky remarks, and a whole bunch of dialogue. So in this episode today, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I will deep dive into the dynamics of the work-life balance, as if you didn't know about it already, and if you didn't, then you'll be pleasantly surprised. My name is Ayan, and you're listening to BasTalk, a podcast about your work-like balance, if I may call it so, for the weird, woke, wise, wobbly, whoever you are, all are welcome. Bear in mind, it's a slow burn, no prescription, instant gratification podcast. So by the time you exit this episode, all you will have on your mind is some more stuff to think about. But if that's something that floats your boat, then let's jump right in. So how do we begin? Where do we even begin to deconstruct this whole fact versus fiction about working on weekends? Let's take a step back. Let's look at it from two different lenses, two different point of views. Let's look at it from the leadership point of view. Let's look at it from the employee point of view, right? Two different perspectives. So from a employee perspective, give you a sense. Most of the conversations that I hear, here are the facts, and here is the myth that I can get promoted every single year. So there's a list of myths that many young people in India is blessed with 800 million youngsters, roughly. When I say youngsters, I call people below the age of 30 as early career stage professionals. So 0 to 10 years for those set of individuals, right? The large conversations that I hear, whether it's during interviews, interactions, engagements, and everything, is I need to earn more, I need to make more money. Great. Follow-up question. Why do you need to make more money? Seriously, why is that even a question? I was like, no, but help me understand. Actually, I have a lot of loans. I have debts. Believe you me, I kid you not. Of the 10 conversations, 6 or 7 of them have the same response. You need to make more money because you are in debt and you have EMIs. And basically, it says that you've not done your financial planning well. Now, there are so many nuances to it, right? I know there's already a set of people thinking, what does he know? What does he know? What my situation is not in my control. And yes, that factor is there. I do not know your situation. But it also begs the question that there are many, many young, talented professionals who mismanage their finances. Why is that? Why do you mismanage your finance? By way of spending on stuff that you don't need, on stuff that is beyond your means, and all in the name of ambition, all in the name of growing up. Sure, nobody's saying don't grow up, right? As in stature-wise, society level-wise, and aspirationally, if you have a bike, you want to have a four-wheeler. If you have a entry-level four-wheeler, you want to have a mid-size sedan or a compact SUV, and so on and so forth. So yeah, one gets that. What doesn't get is compressing everything everywhere all at once. Like what doesn't get is, can you not pace your purchases over a period of time so that it does not become a burden on your income? That is where the problem statement is. Very easy to misunderstand somebody saying, well, I need to make more money. I want to pull my family out of, say, lower middle class and bring them to upper middle class, or upper middle class to higher, upper, whatever the class is, or financial strata, if that's what I mean. It is difficult. And so are there success stories in doing that? Yes, absolutely there are. But along with that, I would really ask some of you, and you can leave a comment, that has there been an instance where you have got a great ton of success by spending least amount of time. Think about it. So the myth sometimes is that I will make a lot of money, I will keep getting promoted every year. Please understand, and for those who have been on BasTalk for a longer period of time will, roll their eyes over, and this is repeated ad nauseum, that doing your job well does not equal promotion. Right? That's why you are hired. You are not hired to do 99%. You are hired to deliver 100%. So if you did 100% attainment month on month or quarter on quarter or year on year, that equals good job done. It does not automatically warrant a promotion. You can push for it, you can ask for it, nothing wrong with it. It does not automatically, you can't get upset if you don't get promoted by it. Now, the counter argument is then, oh, well, I worked even more harder and I got 110% or I delivered over and above expectations. Absolutely appreciate that. Absolutely appreciate that. And that's why you get a performance bonus or stock or what have you. That still does not grant or guarantee you a promotion. And so getting into the next level is always going to be more difficult than the preceding level. So your promotions, if I were to keep it like a 3-decade journey, the decade one in India, given the fact that 60% of the country is below the age of 30, you will probably get promoted the fastest. You're most employable, you can easily learn, you're moldable, coachable, and you're flexible in a certain way. And so these are for generalist profiles, right? That you can get promoted every 2 years, 3 years, maybe every year in many cases, possible to a certain level. It starts to slow down post the 7-8 year mark, and certainly after the 10-year mark. At the 10-year mark, it kind of slows down. Then it's never a 2-year guaranteed promotion. And that's where a lot of the people try to move away to seek another job and see, well, I've spent 2 years, I'm not growing. There's no learning. I'm like, actually, what the subtext there is, I need to make more money and I'm not, and I don't see how I'm going to make it here. Now, there are so many aspects to this, right? And of course, there are situations where it is actually true that the potential to earn money is not available. There is zero chance. Maybe the product is not ready. Maybe the service is not good. The market conditions are bad. There could be a whole bunch of things given. But assuming all things remain constant and the company is growing and stuff is there, there is potential because somebody else is making that money. It's not the entire workforce is not making money. But as it comes to you, you convince yourself that, no, I'm not making enough money. And so hence I need to seek a job. I need to seek a job change. And in doing so, people go hop, skip, and jump and landing up accelerating their purchases in anticipation of increased income. And while doing that, can you spend lesser time to get there? The answer is no. Very difficult. If you want more, then it is directly proportional to the time that you invest. Yes, you will become more efficient, you'll become better at your job, you'll save some more time, but additional work will always get added. So the fact and fiction of work hours or time spent is that if you have in your mind that you need to grow faster than others, faster than your peers, and do it quicker, then the time cannot get compressed in doing that, right? So what people have spent, say, 20 years to achieve, I have zero doubt that you have more talent, more ability, more smartness / more information than, say, our previous generation had. So what we have done in, say, 20, you probably will achieve it in 18 or maybe in 17, who knows? But what we have done in 20, trying to expect at 5 or 7 years of work experience, that's where the challenge is. Yes, there are exceptions. I don't doubt that there are exceptions. By and large, in general, right? By and large, it's not possible. Very difficult. And so time, it's like somebody said, right? You can't sprint a marathon. It's a marathon of a career. And yes, you can choose to say, I'll retire at 40, I'll retire, keep hearing those kind of things. Sure, you retire at 40. Good luck. But for those who have to work till 60, it's like I said, a long marathon. And so you need to pace yourself well, equip yourself well, upskill yourselves. And how do you do that? You have to keep certifying yourself, keep becoming a subject matter expert. That's what makes the delta difference and make you grow higher, or grow faster than your nearest peer. That means that you will need to spend more time. How else are you going to manage, given the fact that you leave at 6:37 in the morning, have to be at office by 8:39ish? I know in India many offices begin at 10 o'clock, fair, but you still have that 1.5 hours of travel, unless you're blessed to stay just below the office or whatever, or working hybrid, working from home. That's a blessing. Um, and then about 2 hours to get back home. And so 4 hours of travel and about at least 9 to 10 hours. So 10 plus 2 plus 2. So 14 hours of time away from home. And so that you do for 5 days, you're clearly exhausted by Saturday. And if you're in one of those organizations that you have to work on a Saturday, then you have to repeat this at least even for a half a day. And then if people expect you to work on a Sunday, that's when you just kind of take off and say, that's not sustainable. That if I look at it from your perspective, it's not sustainable. But what is the challenge there is, while on one hand we say it's not sustainable, on the other hand, we have this innate desire to accelerate and to do things faster, better than others, as I explained earlier. So how else do you crack the code? So one way of doing so is you let go of some of the growth aspirations and trajectories, not quite quitting. I'm not suggesting quite slowing down or quite drifting, if you will, or suggesting that you have recalibrate your milestones. 99% of the time, people are frustrated that they're not able to grow, but they do not have a written down milestone based career development plan. That's too basics. That's too pedestrian. Like, who does that? Yeah, I do that. Should do that. Everybody should do that. You should at least have, like, we are in 2025. How many of you can, and put it in the comments below, how many of you can come back and say, I have a plan for where I want to be specifically first of, or what's the date today? 11th of January, 2020, 30. 11th January 2030. Where do you want to be? Which company, which position, which city, which location, what compensation bracket? Question there is, what is it that you're doing today that will help you get there tomorrow? What are the skill sets you need to get today that will help guarantee that slot for you 4 years down the line or 5 years down the line? Not thinking through that, but people are getting frustrated and constantly that I'm not growing, I'm leaving a job. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. You have to have a plan of growth. So once you have a plan, then your recalibration of pace, that, I was just thinking I will get it done in 2 years, but this is something that probably I need to spend 3 years. And that's perfectly fine if you want to spend 3 years perfecting a particular role. And nobody's asking you to stagnate. They're saying go deep, become a subject matter expert. And that cannot certainly be compressed in like 6 months and say, look, I'm a subject matter expert. That doesn't work, right? It takes time. So it is a function of time. You can't deny it. Now, does it mean that you need to then sacrifice Saturdays and Sundays as well? It depends on the roadmap that you want for yourself. If your roadmap is super aggressive, then yes. If your roadmap is well paced and calibrated, then no. And then don't be part of such organizations which expect you by default to be on that kind of a trajectory. That's not the organization for you then. And therefore make peace with it. You can't be in that organization and then criticize that, why am I doing this? Yes, you can critique it if it was an ad hoc thing introduced somewhere in between without you consenting to it, without being prepared for it. Yeah. But if you were well informed at the interview, right at the start, this is the company culture, and if you haven't asked that, you ought to, then you've consciously signed up for it? If you have, then absolutely do something about it, right? And there could be newer policies introduced, middle of your tenure. And if they don't work out well for you, best bet to part ways. Plan it out. Plan your exit well. Well, I have nothing with the job description, but this work-life balance is getting messed up, and I value my work-life balance. I need to be, mentally healthy and in a position of freshness, as it were, for me to deliver highest productivity. Then yes, absolutely look for an alternative and be, well networked enough and well connected enough, be well visible enough in the circles that you aspire to be. You will get hired. That's it. Now let us switch gears and look at it from a leadership perspective. Proceed further. Let's address the elephant in the room right off the bat. Right, the commentary about staring at partners over the weekend is an individual call, and so one need not associate all leaders to think like that. However, my sense is, and I'm just trying to see if I could probably give you a insider offer from a leader standpoint in my, and I'm nowhere comparing myself. All I'm saying is, when we are tasked to grow, develop an organization from point A to point B in a finite amount of time, it automatically makes the mind tick faster than everybody else. You always have to be a step ahead before. So if you're driving a car at 100 kmph and you see that there is a road bump or a pothole ahead, then you can't come very close to the pothole and then jam the brakes or do something, right? You have to see, anticipate, probably know the road well in advance, and then take a detour or navigate or dodge or what have you. This requires a lot of advanced planning. As you might have guessed already, if you then need to plan everything in advance, think through everything end to end, it consumes bandwidth, aka it takes a lot of time. When it takes a lot of time, the pressure is that how can you compress time and get more done? And if that time is not available, then you want to stretch time. And therefore, I suspect and I guess that the comment would have come is, how can I get more done with the available limited time? If that means I have to sacrifice a bit of my family life in order to achieve something bigger, greater, then that's what I do. Look, please try and zoom out. They're viewing the situation from a whole business, country, economy. They're just, it's a macro view. As a macro view, you want to do something more. You are building something. When you are in the phase of, you think of this as a bell curve. When you're in the build phase, it is, your time sense is completely diluted. I can tell you it is difficult, that being switched on all the time, because your mind is preoccupied. You're always thinking of multiple things. Sometimes leaders can say something which you, who's probably not primed up or warmed up listening to it, is like, oh my God, how did he say that? But the whole context, or the before and after, before the meeting, what happened in the preceding 3 days, and what's going on in the larger scheme of things. We are all humans. Leaders are not, different species. You are a leader tomorrow. You are going to be a leader. If you're not one already, you will be a leader tomorrow. You will be in a similar situation, and that's what most of you aspire for. That one day I'll be the top head honcho of a big company. And so it is very, very difficult to run a big organization. It is very difficult to run any organization, big, small, medium. It's tough, and it consumes a lot of your mind space. Now, I'm not defending. All I'm saying is, as a fellow colleague, as a fellow citizen, if you will, or a person who's been in similar situation, is that I'm just trying to sensitize some of the people who've been offended. And I'm not even saying that you shouldn't feel offended. If you did, then yeah, you have every right to. But there is also a chance that it is an inadvertent comment, not literally always meant. And Yes, do we want to work more? Yes, we do want people to work more. Do the CIOs or CEOs or CXOs work more? Yes, they do. By way of what? By way of unable to switch off. We might not be doing the feet on street work. You know what I'm saying? Which probably is more cumbersome, but it is limited in scope. The higher you go, the physicality of it reduces, the mentality of it, for lack of a better expression, increases. And so you are never really switched off. Mondays, you could have a forecast call. Tuesdays, you could have a finance call. Wednesdays, you could have legal. Thursdays could be media. It could be a whole bunch of things. And so you're perpetually surrounded with thoughts. And so sometimes one needs to give that little bit of benefit of doubt and say, okay, maybe this was just a passing comment and it's not. Yes, it could be literal also. Not denying that. It could be literal, it could be well meant, it could be by design. You can argue that at a leadership level, no commentary is not without reason. Yeah, like I said, at the top of the conversation, we live in a multi-tiered truth environment. There is no absolute truth anywhere. I'm just trying to give you both sides of the story to the best of my limited understanding and availability of information. So there are instances where there are leaders who are workaholics. There are instances where leaders almost lose the sense of work-life balance given their schedules, because no two leaders are alike. Like no two employees are alike. Right? You and your colleague are different. So then how can you expect all leaders to be the same? Right? There are those who can manage this, who are sensitized, who are better equipped to understand the work-life balance. And some come from very different psyche, different mindset, who only know a particular way to work. And it has worked for them. And like I said, again, right at the top of the conversation, do whatever works. So if that's what works for them, that's the way they think a problem can be solved. You can subscribe to it or not. You can align to it or not. And you always have that option. I know some of you are compelled to be in a job, even if you don't like it or don't want it, because of other situations. But remember, those other situations, it's easy to say it's beyond my control. And by other situations, I mean financial discipline and all the stuff that we spoke about earlier. So if you tackle that, then the pressure on the work becomes lesser. And then your option to be part of somebody's thinking or not to be part of it becomes relatively easier. Bear in mind, no leader, to the best of my knowledge, would want a team or a business to not succeed. No leader would want a team that is fatigued or almost like down with energy, right? Nobody would want that. And as much as the deadlines and pressures that might be, they want they're best served if they have people who are switched on at all times. So, generational thing, as was the case in our generation, our preceding generation thought that we were the softies. We were not as hardworking, we are not as tough as our predecessors were. And I kid you not, there are lots of people in our generation who think that the next generation is too fragile. They break down too easily. They need to work harder. So it's a function of a multi-generational workforce residing under one roof. Like somebody who's in their 50s versus somebody who's in their mid-30s versus somebody who's in their mid-20s have a very different view of how a particular situation ought to be addressed. Add to that, there is a change in dynamics on the landscape, the societal changes, the socio-political situations, the geopolitical awareness has increased. So all of these create a very heady mix where anybody saying anything could be misconstrued or argued or thought differently. So when multi-generational talent works under one roof, it is going to be difficult. There will be some conflicts in way of approach, thought process, outcomes, expectations, and last but not the least, vocabulary. So I'll leave it at that. I hope it gives you a little better perspective on both from the expectation resetting from a employee standpoint, and then also giving you a sense from a leadership standpoint that it's not that anybody wants uh, the team to suffer or be miserable. That's not the intent, aim, goal, and the people clearly won't do that by design. Not everybody handles pressure the same way. Some people thrive under pressure. Like if you go back a few decades when some of us were in school, there were students who would play with us all month long, but they would sit down to study the day before the test, memorize the whole damn thing, and come up trumps. They would be just right, like 90 percenters, 95 percenters, whatever. And I very quickly realized that is very difficult. I would probably need to do much more. What somebody could remember, learn, mug up in 2 hours, I probably needed 20 hours. I don't know. So that's one of the big leadership lessons that I carry in my mind, that not everybody handles the same information or receives the same information in the same way it was intended to be delivered. And you've delivered the message that we need to work hard, but it is being received at, oh my God, the person is not giving me any more promotions money, but it asks for a higher output. That's one set of people. Another set of people are looking at it in a way saying, oh, this is a great opportunity. I can contribute to the top line, maybe I can make a difference. And somebody else is thinking, oh, this was the moment that I missed in my previous organization. I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to do it again. And yet there could be another set of people that was the last nail in the coffin. I'm out of this organization. So it is always a mix of these emotions. And that is why there is such a furor and cry. It's not a absolute truth for anybody, not for the leader, not for the employee, not for the employer, not for the employees. Right? It is always a mixed truth. And for us to standardize and say this is how it ought to be or should be is probably best left out of our conversation. Well, that's a wrap. That's the time I had for this episode. As promised, as mentioned right at the top, I hope it gave you more things to think about, reflect about, introspect about. There are no easy answers to this, and I'm sorry if I've disappointed you. If some of you were looking for instant gratification, that's not what happens at BasTalk. So if you like this content, please do share with with people who care for similar slow burn, straight talk, no mumbo jumbo, no fluff stuff, and let's grow the tribe. Until we meet the next time, stay well, stay safe. Keep listening to BasTalk. This is your host, Ian, and I wish you a great week ahead.